So today I want to take a look at heroes and their power level and everything you need to know in Heroes Forge in terms of leveling up your hero and making them the most powerful they can be. So when I first started playing the game, I kind of underestimated I guess the power of some of the things within the game and some of the things I needed to do to make my characters as strong as I can. I'll show you some of the tricks and techniques. Well, I don't know if they're techniques, but some of the tricks that you need to know in terms of understanding the power of heroes. So one of the places this really comes into play the most is in the arena. And so let's take a look there first. And so when you first start the game, this is kind of a lot of information to absorb, and it's probably good just to take a look at a team here that's maybe in the middle. Um, we'll take a look at Brittany, okay, this first one here. And so the thing to consider when you're looking at a team like this is the relative power level and how big of a team and well, not how big, but how strong of a team you're going to need to really take that team on and be effective at beating it, right? And so a couple different pieces of information show. First is the color of the character. So a blue is a rare, a purple is an epic, a green is an uncommon. So it's very similar to the World of Warcraft. If you've ever played that, sort of the green is the weakest of these, the blue is the second, the next strongest, purple is the strongest, and then a yellow one, like this character here, will be a legendary. So from a base stat perspective, it's going to go white, which I don't think, yeah, they do actually doesn't even have a border like the mage here. It's going to go that, green, blue, purple, legendary, which is yellow, okay? And so that's the first set of stats you have to take into consideration. So this team, which is kind of made up of a few different things now, this healer is actually a little bit stronger in terms of being able to maintain itself in the actual battle in terms of taking damage. She kind of is able to take a bunch of heat and still dish out heals. So if you can't get her under control and she gets behind this tank right here, then you've got a problem. But in terms of the power level in general, that's what this is the first level to look out for. How strong are their characters? So this team here, they've got two legendary characters and they've got two epic characters. Gunslinger is also one of the more powerful characters in the game right now. I just ranked all the characters just recently in another video. I'll put that up above so you can check it out. So when you look at a team like this, where you're looking at a couple epics and a couple legendaries versus kind of a rainbow of teams here, it's something that's the first thing you look at. Okay, the base power level of these characters is more powerful. Now, there's an actual number on each of these. It shows you sort of the power level in general of each character as a total. And I think this is made up of the armor you've got on them or the gear. It's the measure of how many times you've upgraded that character. So you can see +7, +12, and then also stats you've applied to them through various other parts of the game. So let's take a look at a character and we'll give you more information on what you need to do when you start building up a character in terms of making them the most powerful they can be. So let's take a look at my Pyromancer because a few things have been done on this character versus the next character that we can take a look at. And so when you first look at a character, her rarity is rare. Rarity is rare. So she's a little bit easier to farm. So the first number here is this +12, and so that's one thing to consider, and that's done through this upgrade feature. Now to upgrade a character, I don't know if I have any upgrades available right now. We'll come down here actually, and we'll show you what that looks like. This guy right here is somebody I upgrade once in a while. So you'll see there's a little yellow dot here and you can upgrade your character up to 12. So I don't know what you want to call this, upgrade 12 or 12 plus or plus 12, whatever you want to call it. But that's going to be, well, let's take a look at the upgrade UI, right? So right now you can see he's at +8. If I upgrade him again, so that to upgrade you use one of the same characters to sacrifice, you can see all their base stats go up by this much. So it's an increase of virtually every stat on the character. And you can see I've done this 8 times. So, assuming this was 7 each time, 7 times 8, 56. That's a big jump, from where we started at. So these upgrades are very, very powerful. And so it's important that as you get more characters to start differentiating yourself, you really need to focus on the characters you want to upgrade the most. And some of it's just pure luck. Some characters I've pulled, like this guy here, the Reaper, I've gotten +6, just purely luck draws from my scrolls, so I've leveled him up. The Shaman, you can level him up fairly quickly as you go through the game because you'll get one of these shards or one of these characters every 15 days you can sacrifice in, and on and on and on. And so that's one of the big things you gotta look out for. So Gunslinger right now is one of the most powerful characters in the game. I'm slowly upgrading her. So another way you can upgrade characters is you can come over here to your black market And you can see today they have a legendary stone, and that's worth 240 crystals. So I could buy this and actually go back to any legendary character, and that's why these are really powerful. I could take any legendary in my roster, any yellow character, and I could apply that as an upgrade to that character. So you can see it's quite expensive, right? A legendary core stone is 240 crystals. That's a lot, right? So the legendaries are definitely the hardest to get there. You can actually get core stones for epics at, I think, three. You get three at a time, and I think it's roughly the same amount of crystals. I don't recall exactly. And you get more for the uncommon and the rares. So they show up on a fairly common basis. So if you need to find a way to plus up your characters, this is a good place to do it. They also have them in the store under consumables, I believe. Yeah, so you can buy them here. So, the hard cash currency value of these things is 9.99. So you'll see probably for the same number of crystals, 240, you'll get three and you'll get five. That's usually how that's broken up. So that's how you can level up those characters. Another thing is the stars, right? And in some games, stars are actually kind of hard to get to. Heroes Forge is pretty free to play friendly in that respect. You can generally star up characters fairly quickly. And so you can see here, this is a 5-star character, but this 4-star character, I need to promote him at some point to get him to 5 stars. Now, promotion, you can see what happens. You have to be level 40, and you can see what happens once you do that promotion. They'll get all these upgrades. But you'll basically need to take a star level of the character below this to upgrade it. So to upgrade this 4-star, I'm going to need 3 stars. And so for these common characters, that's fairly easy to do. The good news is, as you start getting into the epic and rares, these star counts by default are higher, so you'll get 4 stars and 5 stars right out of the scroll, and you won't have to do as much upgrading. I don't think you can get a legendary below 5 stars, so again, this is just part of the process. You need to make sure and promote your characters to make sure they're as strong as they can possibly be. That's just going to be the default thing. You'll want that no matter what. All right. So the next thing is equipment. And so this is probably one of the parts of the game I think could use a lot of work. It's really hard to figure out where equipment is across characters. A good example of this would be like my gunslinger here. So we've got Fireborn gear I've been playing with adding to her. So if I get all 12 of these items, you can see right here, I'll get a 100% chance of burn on the target. It just so happens that the dungeon I'm farming has that gear drop. But now to like actually find out if there's that type of gear left, I have to remove an item, and you can see there's not, so I can just put this back on. But the other problem is I can't see this gear on other characters, so that's kind of problematic. So now I'd have to go through all my characters and look to see who might have that type of gear on it, to remove it and then apply it there. So I don't actually think there's this in my sets yet. Um, but you can see this could become very tedious and kind of it's just like a not an easy way of doing it. I hope that one day they'll actually let you, when you click on this, maybe have a tab or something like that where you can see gear you can replace it with. I think they actually used to have this back in the day. But then you could actually apply it. But that's a separate issue in general. But when it comes to gear, so you kind of your Imperial level, and that's kind of like the base legendary set of gear. So you'll see this in dungeons, and you'll see these as random drops throughout the game. You'll get lots of these things as you level up. These used to be a bit easier to get, so it might not be as easy as it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago, but it's still there. You can buy them in various stores. So that's your first tier. And then you've got this set gear, which they're actually talking about reworking in some of the discussions I've seen. But set gear generally has like a different kind of bonus on it, and they are better health bonuses and attack. All these things are definitely stronger in general. So these are sets, and you'll see these are indicated by these different types of icons. I think there's also some. We'll take a look real quick. The purple gear is actually the tier below the legendary gear. So this gear, Adventurer, that's the tier below the first level, which is Imperial. But anyways, there's lots of other types of gear. I think there's 5 sets in the game. I covered that in a video prior. Um, so here we go. Here's another one. This is Vampiric. This is another dungeon you have to farm. But again, on this one, when you get 12 items, you get 15% damage return as HP. That could be very powerful, obviously. So those are the next tier up, right? And so you want to try to match these things up. One thing I always try to do is get all 4 of these buffs for what I have equipped. So in this case, I couldn't level this, or I couldn't get enough gear to cover the Imperial, and I couldn't get enough to get the Vampiric. So I actually did use Adventure just so I got the extra buff here. You could argue it's probably worth it or not. Maybe you could take just some regular kind of legendary gear, but I think in general you're better getting the set match. Otherwise, you don't get it at all. So that's something else you can do. And then finally, the other thing you want to keep in mind is you want to enchant your gear. And so, what does enchanting mean? So, we'll take an example like my gunslinger here. And so, one of the things I want with her is I want her to be as fast as possible. So, I'm working on getting her initiative up. So, you can see I'm plus 11 on her. The max you can enchant a piece of gear up to is plus 12. So, I'm one away. So, when I click enchant, you're going to see what happens here. Again, this is another buff. She's going to go from 139 to 145. You can see the success rate on this is very low, so it actually lets you do 10 enchants at a time. So we'll take a shot here on the video and see what happens. But anyways, you want to try to get the key stats. If you're going after crit or crit damage, you want to try to get those up to this plus 12 level. There we go. We just spent 18k. No update there. That's fine. I usually do these once a day and see what happens. But you want to make sure you enchant your gear, especially your legendary gear, up as much as you can. Typically, when I'm working on a character, and you can see I've done that here, is I'll do them to plus 9. The expense of going from 10, 11, and 12 gets pretty hefty, and I try to conserve some of my coins in case I have a new character or a new piece of gear I really want to update. But plus 9, plus 10 is a good place to start. But when you get to your final set of characters and ones you want to run in PvP and things like that, you do want to get those characters up to plus 12. Okay. So that's another thing to look out. So we've got gear, we've got star level, we've got upgrade level, all filtering into these various stats and abilities for the character. And so finally, the last thing we need to talk about is the haul. This is the last thing that will fit into your character. So there's 3 different flavors of character, and that's mages, which are spellcasters, assassins, which are going to be like your rogues, and then your warriors, which are going to be like your tanks. And they all have this where you can use your currency to buy up these different buffs. And these also go up to plus 12. So things like initiative, I tend to lean towards speed. I've been working on those for my warriors and for my assassins. You can see I'm plus 7 here, and I'm plus 6 here. Mages, I think one of them I've got the plus 12. So plus 12. No, I actually don't have them to plus 12. Plus 10. I'm sorry, plus 10 is the max. Plus 12 is everything else. Sorry. So plus 10 is as high as I can go. So I get an extra 10% initiative on any light spellcaster, which is good. And that all weighs back into things like if I'm looking at my pyromancer here and I look at horror stats. So initiative, I believe, that's attack power. Initiative was this one. So you can see through all these things, this is what I've got on her. I've got 900 initiative, and that comes from the haul, which I just showed you, the equipment, which is going to be bonuses, and the actual stats on the actual equipment itself, and then her base. So that's, again, where a rare character is probably going to be a little stronger in the basic realm in terms of what you get as a base stat. All right, and then finally, and this is why it's important to join a guild, is you can actually pull stats from your guild. So over here, if you look at your traits, this is something as a guild you can invest in. So you can see we have an increase in drop rate, but then you can also see increases in damage and magical damage received, inflicted, mind control, and then finally there's going to be initiative. You can see you had to be guild level 5 to get here. So this is a long road to get to. And we're, as a guild, we're at tier 2, so you can see we started investing in some of these other items down here. But again, these things would also show up on that UI for this particular character once you got up and running in there too. So that's it. So to make a character, it's to make a character really the max that it can be. This is all the things you would need to do to get that in place and make it work the way you'd want it to work, to get the most power and to get the most out of your characters. So there it is. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. We've got a big update coming here in the next few days. Some of this may change based on that, but I want to make a video and just talk a little bit about the character strengths and weaknesses and how you can buff them up and where you can take them to make sure they're as effective as they can be in the game. So we'll see you next time. Give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.